themselves a strong coffee and invent a word that sounds like the villain in a medical drama. Carcinization, the unstoppable, slightly ridiculous process by which perfectly respectable crustaceans look at the chaos of the seafloor, shrug, and collectively decide that the best possible life strategy is to fold their tail underneath their body like a tired accountant closing a spreadsheet, squash themselves flat as a pancake that spent too much time at the gym, grow a shell that says, "I have never been hugged and I'm fine with that," shorten their legs until they look like they're permanently stuck in a low-budget moonwalk, and spend the rest of eternity scuttling sideways while daring anything with teeth to try its luck. Look at this creature right here, the one that looks like it lost a fight with a lawnmower and then decided to lean into the aesthetic, covered in hair, waving claws the size of dinner plates, living 2 kilometers deep next to volcanic vents that would cook you instantly, growing entire gardens of bacteria on its arms because it's too metal to eat normal food. And you're absolutely certain it's a crab. Except it isn't. Not even a little. It's a yeti crab, Kiwa hirsuta, discovered in 2005 in the Pacific Antarctic Ridge, and it belongs to a family that was doing its own thing for tens of millions of years, before someone looked at it and said, "Close enough," and threw it into the crab pile anyway. Or take the king crab, the absolute unit that shows up at Alaskan fishing boats like a red armored personnel carrier with legs long enough to give you nightmares. The one that costs more per pound than decent cocaine, and every time you crack one open at a seafood restaurant you think you're eating the pinnacle of crab evolution. Except genetically, it's basically just a hermit crab that hit the gym, got tired of carrying around stolen snail houses like some kind of shell-squatting loser, decided to grow its own armored backside, folded its soft abdomen underneath itself the way you fold a bad decision into the bottom of a drawer and hope nobody finds it, flattened out, bulked up, and suddenly became the most expensive lie on the menu. Because the last time a king crab and a true crab shared a common ancestor, the continents were still smushed together into Pangaea, and dinosaurs hadn't even been invented yet. And then, there are the porcelain crabs, these delicate little reef hipsters that look like someone tried to make a crab out of tissue paper, and existential dread. So fragile that their shell shatters if you whisper taxes in their general direction, spending their days waving giant feathery fans to catch plankton like they're at an underwater rave, refusing to fight anyone because violence is so last epoch. And yet, they still went through the entire carcinization checklist. Tail tucked, body squashed, claws flattened, sideways shuffle activated, proving that you don't have to be tough to follow the crab blueprint. You just have to be committed to the bit. Even the coconut crab, the land-dwelling nightmare that climbed out of the ocean millions of years ago, looked at trees full of coconuts and thought, "I'm about to become the stuff of island legends, growing claws that exert more crushing force than a lion's bite, strong enough to snap bones, open beer bottles, and probably unscrew the lid off your existential crisis, terrorizing tropical islands from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific, stealing shoes, breaking into kitchens, climbing palm trees under the full moon like some kind of crustacean werewolf. And technically, it's still a hermit crab cousin that just took carcinization on a gap year to dry land and never came back. The fossil record is even wilder, because 250 million years ago, long before true crabs ever existed, there were already animals running crab cosplay so convincingly that when we dig them up today, we argue for decades about whether they count. Creatures like Eocarcinus precursor from the early Jurassic of England, flat and wide with the tail already starting to fold underneath, or Imocaris from the Carboniferous, doing the sideways walk 320 million years ago when the biggest land animal was a millipede the size of a crocodile. And every single one of these beta test crabs eventually went extinct because they were running Crab OS version 0.9, missing the final armor upgrades or the perfect leg geometry, wiped out by asteroid impacts or oxygen crashes or just bad luck. But every time the oceans recovered and life got another chance, some completely different lineage looked around, saw the same problems, and said, "Hold my plankton, I've got an idea," and reinvented the crab from scratch all over again. Right now, as you're reading this, there are shrimp species in coral reefs and deep sea trenches that are already on the path, tails getting shorter generation by generation, bodies starting to widen, legs shifting outward. The first tiny baby steps toward a future where your great-great-grandchildren will be paying $80 a plate for something that technically started life as a shrimp, and nobody at the table will ever know they're eating the punchline to a joke that started before mammals even had fur. But before you start gluing your fingers together in panic, breathe. Humans are not on the menu for carcinization, because our environment doesn't reward becoming a low-slung, armored pancake with anger issues. And the same physics that keeps funneling crustaceans toward crabhood is the exact reason lions aren't doing it. Elephants aren't doing it. Penguins aren't doing it. We're locked into an entirely different blueprint that involves big brains, upright posture, and the ability to complain about the weather on social media. So you're safe for now. That said, the ocean is absolutely full of animals that looked at the same problems and came up with answers that are crab-adjacent. Stingrays that flatten themselves into living flying carpets just to glide over sand without spending energy. Flounders that migrated one eye to the other side of their heads so they could lie flat on the bottom and still stare into your soul like a haunted painting. Sand dollars that took the sea urchin sphere and said, "Nah, too three-dimensional," and pancaked themselves into living coins that bury in the sand and filter feed like tiny crustacean wannabes. Horseshoe crabs that have been rocking the same basic design for 450 million years and refuse to die, because apparently being a living fossil is a personality trait. Boxfish that turn themselves into swimming dice with armor so thick they laugh at predators. Everything that needs to survive on the seafloor eventually starts looking like it read the same instruction manual and just highlighted different parts. It's the same reason sharks, dolphins, ichthyosaurs, and even tuna all ended up as living torpedoes, because if you want to move fast through water with minimum drag, you get one basic shape and everybody copies homework. The same reason birds, bats, pterosaurs, and even flying fish all invented the same wing template, because physics is a restaurant with like 6 items on the menu. And if you order the fast swimmer combo, you get a torpedo. Order the seafloor tank combo, you get wide, flat, armored, and permanently ready to throw claws. Order the flight combo, you get wings and hollow bones. And that's it. Those are your options. The universe is not infinitely creative. It's just really good at reusing what works. So no, everything is not literally becoming a crab. Everything that lives in the specific hellscape of the seafloor and happens to start with the right raw materials is becoming a crab. Because crab just happens to be the local optimum. The evolutionary cheat code. The cosmic Ctrl+C, that keeps winning no matter how many times the game resets. And honestly, after 250 million years of different animals independently reaching the same conclusion, that the best way to live is to become an angry, armored, sideways walking dinner plate with trust issues and a permanent side-eye. You almost have to respect the commitment. If you've been here the whole time, laughing at the absurdity, nodding along to the science, or just staring at the screen wondering why the ocean is allowed to be this extra, then do me a solid, hit that subscribe button right now, because we're just getting warmed up and the next dive is going to be even wilder. And whatever you do tonight, wherever you are, keep an eye on your feet, because if you wake up tomorrow and your toes are fused into little claws, and you feel a sudden urge to bury yourself under a rock and threaten passers-by with tiny weapons, well, at least you'll know the universe has been planning this punchline for 250 million years. And you, my friend, just became the latest creature to discover that all roads, given enough time and the right kind of pressure, eventually lead to crab. See you legends in the next one. Stay salty, stay sideways, and try not to evolve too fast.